Strap yourself in and get ready. The leaders in BBL Supercoach are incoming. Running in off the back fence to give you the ultimate insight to help you dominate your mates and climb up in the rankings. You're now listening to the Insight BBL Show with your hosts, Braino and Horse.
G'day guys, welcome to the first live preview show for BBL Supercoach on the Insight BBL Show. Braino here with Horse, as always in the studio. Horse, mate, we're 1 day, 22 hours, 43 minutes and 33 seconds away from round one.
Yeah, I'm pretty keen. Very, very keen. As the people in the Patreon would know, we've been pumping out a lot of content for pretty much this very moment to make sure our teams are right to go for round one. But more importantly, how you been, mate?
Yeah, I've been all right. I've been on, they call it paternity leave. I'm kind of on annual leave now, but I've, just had a little girl. So I've taken a little bit of downtime, a bit of time away from work. And it's, you know what it's done? It's allowed me to just look at Supercoach nonstop 24/7, which has been pretty dangerous, to be honest. Other than that, mate, I'm good. How are you? You doing all right?
Yeah, going well. And if you guys at home think that you've heard a lot from Braino on the social media in the last 2 or 3 weeks, you should see my inbox. It's full, but it's awesome because now I'm all the more smarter for BBL, and I'm really looking forward to the start of the Stars and Perth game it is less than 48 hours away. Yeah,
so good. Like, obviously, we've had a pretty long preseason, right? We've talked for close to 6 weeks, I reckon, now on, team previews, positional analysis. We've done a ton of stuff, and I think we've run out of content in the Patreon. So there's a lot happening, but tonight is all about previewing round one. So we're going to cover tons, but if you haven't yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're new here, we would appreciate it if you hit that button. Hit the like button as well if you like the content throughout the show. Gives us it gets us out to more eyes and ears, so we would appreciate that. And for those of you listening on audio, follow and review would be fantastic. Now, if you haven't joined the Unlimited League yet either, come on, you've got to jump in there. It's free to join. 650202 is the code. I'll repeat it, 650202. For those of you on YouTube, you're going to be able to see it there on the screen. You win your standard squeeze every single week for the top scorer, and we're giving away a Supercoach Champions ring as we do every single year for each competition that we run across all 4 sports, thanks to SC Rings. So there's some stuff to win. And how many we got in the moment? 550?
553 as we speak. So we want to get there over 600 before the season starts.
We hit 650 by round 5 last year. I reckon we can do 700 by round 1.
Yeah,
I reckon it can happen. There's only 150 people, so let's make it happen out there, guys. Share it with your friends. Jump in, win some free shit, and take on the best that there is in the community. Now, you don't want to miss the Patreon live Q&A. There's going to be one that is going to be starting tomorrow night at 8:30. It's going to be exclusive to all of our Patreon subscribers that spend their hard-earned money to get our insights. So we're going to be doing a pure Q&A, all questions answered in that show. So you can jump on in, you can become a Patreon member and listen to this man about how to do it.
Want to take your Supercoach game to the next level? Insight Fantasy Sports are bringing you exclusive content all year round, such as weekly expert Q&As, team, trade, and captaincy advice, statistical deep dives, priority podcast questions, and tons more. So what are you waiting for? Get full access to the experts. Go to patreon.com/Insight Fantasy Sports and subscribe to Insight Unlimited today.
It's going to be a good show. I'm looking forward to that one tomorrow night. So jump on in, become a Patreon subscriber. It's only about $6, cup of coffee, and it'll cover the whole month. Even if you just want to join and then you want to see the month out, get through your first 4 or 5 rounds and then bail, you can do that too. So well worth the cash. Now, Horse, what do we got on tonight's show, mate? We've got a fair bit to get through.
Am I allowed to say heaps, or I might just go into it a little bit more? We're going to do a quick recap of the preseason of latest news. We're going to preview each game and give you our predicted 11s for each team. Dive into ownership and give our opinions on the top owned players. Our very own game day squad of the round, the very first game day squad of the round, mind you, that we'll be covering. And we're going to also talk VC and C options, loophole options, and tons more.
fuck, have we got enough time to do this? We're going to be here at about 11 o'clock still talking about BBL Supercoach.
We've got Deadly in the chat wanting to play Rex, so he might just have to wait on a little bit.
Yeah, hold tight, Deadly. We'll be there by 11, hopefully, if we can get this done in time. But without further ado, let's jump into things. Let's talk latest news, mate.
It's time for some news from around the league.
And of course, guys, the latest news for this show is brought to you by Ryan from Astute Newstead. For those of you that have wondered about which bank is the best bank, or if your current rates are too high, maybe they're above 6.2%, then worry no more. Hit up Ryan from Astute Newstead for a no obligation free consult. Won't cost you a thing. He gets paid by the big banks. He can negotiate for you and do all the hard yards for you and get yourself into the home loan market. If you're looking to buy your first home, maybe looking to refinance or even just save some cash, Ryan's your man. So jump in our description below. His link is in there, his inquiry form. Just let him know that we sent you, and Ryan will look after you, and we can speak personally about how good Ryan is at what he does, Horse.
He's unreal. And just as we speak, actually, I've got another mate who's going through Ryan, and he's made comment as to how easy it is to deal with Ryan. So see for yourself, if you need some money, you need to take out a loan or just need to refinance, he is your man.
And I actually have a really updated message from Ryan that says, I told him Sunday night, live pod tonight, and he said, "You think I'm watching a cricket podcast? You're dreaming." So if this is the kind of guy you're working with, hates his cricket but loves Supercoach. So you'll see him playing this year. But mate, let's talk news for round one, because there is a lot to get through. For anybody who did miss our previous show, it is free and available on Patreon for all of the latest news. We're not going to cover all of it again, because that'll probably take 40 minutes in itself. But we'll cover the latest stuff that we haven't covered over the last few days, Horse. And the first big bit of news is out of Perth, isn't it? With Aaron Hardy and Josh Inglis both out for round one. I'd say, how does this affect your team? But I'm assuming Inglis was probably a guy that was already sitting there, right?
Yeah, Inglis was, for me, one of those ones that I would have liked to have just set and forget about, because you know what you're going to get out of him. But now he's been brought back into the test squad. I want to ask you this, Braino. Does this mean that Webster is more likely than unlikely to be released in time for round one?
In my opinion,
game
yes.
one of round one.
Yeah, in my opinion, yes. I've seen a lot of people think that both are going to get retained in the test squad, which I
doesn't
just
make
can't
sense.
see happening. No,
because you see Hazelwood, he's coming in, so Boland will be the carryover keeper, and then you'll have Inglis as the carryover batsman in case of the concussion rule. Webster's really in no man's land. Like, I'm with you. I think he gets released and he's ready for Perth in a couple of days.
I think the argument from a lot of people is looking at, well, Mitch Marsh, he's still kind of sore. He said that he's all good to go, but you never know. He might wake up with a bit of a stiff back and he's, doesn't bowl in the next test, or he's not ready for the next test. And my argument to that is that you'd never really hold three players within the test squad. They always end up holding two max. So they've shown their hand by holding Inglis. They're definitely going to hold Boland as the extra bowler for Hazelwood as a backup. It doesn't make sense to also hold Webster, and especially when the BBL's going on in the background. I can understand if you're holding them when there's not much happening, but this time of the year, they're going to want these guys out there playing domestic cricket and promoting the game to Australians. So I don't see them.
Especially when we're talking about a guy that's perhaps in the best form of any Australian cricketer at the moment, both with bat and ball. He's been taking wickets. He's been making runs for fun. We mentioned the other day he's got an average of over 50 in this Australian summer. He's just flying at the moment.
Yeah, he's killing it. Yeah, so big loss for super coaches, Aaron Hardy and Josh Inglis. Aaron Hardy was 35% owned and Inglis was probably around the same mark. I was hoping Hardy was going to play because I was fading the living shit out of him if he wasn't going to bowl. So I was hoping people were going to get caught in that, but not so much. Now they've got to go and pick another player. But Glenn Maxwell also out for game one. Now, when we didn't say round one, we said game one. So that just creates a little bit more confusion around what these squads look like from game to game in this double game week course. Does that change the way that you approach the Stars at all with Maxi potentially coming in game two?
It does a little bit, and we'll get stuck into some team talk later on. But if you listen to Marcus Stoinis and his interview that he did yesterday before the Renegades practice match, he was non-committal to rule Maxi out for round one. It was just round one, and then game one, and then they were going to see how they go. So there's half a chance Maxi might be right for game two.
Every chance, yes. So that's one to watch. I think he's definitely going to be back for their round three double. So that'll be a conversation we'll have in a couple of weeks, I'm sure, about him. But we already talked about Webster, so we can skip through that. But there is a chance he does get retained in the test squad. We both think that he won't and he should be available. So I'd definitely have a draft with Webster and a draft without him. And then you can kind of pivot on game day as to which direction you want to go with that.
Okay.
Now, more news out of Perth, mate. Cooper Connolly and Ashton Agar both look like they're on track for round one, which is big news because we were thinking potentially someone like a Matty Spores was going to get a gig. Look, he still might. But having both of these spinners available in game one for Perth is massive for them.
Oh, it's huge, isn't it? And Perth has been the revolving door for players that we've spoken about this preseason, hasn't it? When we're talking Cooper Connolly, Ashton Agar, Ashton Turner, Jai Richardson in his shoulder, Lance Morris, Behrendorff, AJ Ty. The list goes on. Cooper Connolly, who we were just talking off air, 5 minutes before we came onto air, and he was smoking them in their intra-club that they had.
Yeah, he was the big news that came out of that intra-squad game in Perth. Again, they played against each other in a centre wicket, and apparently he was hitting them to all parts and batted at 3 in that game. So we'll talk about our predicted 11 down the track when we talk about the team previews. We won't spoil too much now, but yeah, he's definitely a guy we'll be looking at very closely coming into game one. Spencer Johnson, also in doubt for round one. He hasn't officially been ruled out yet, but it seems like that toe injury is continuing to bother him after that big allotment of overs he bowled a couple of weeks ago, mate.
Yeah, spot on. It's Spencer Johnson and Nessa who look more likely or more unlikely, to play than likely in round one.
The news for Nessa is much worse than initially
Isn't
feared.
it?
Yeah, so they're thinking Nessa's not going to be back until mid-January, which
towards the back end of the tournament.
Is huge for a couple of guys that could come in and replace him, and we'll talk about that soon as well. But Spencer Johnson missing sucks because I really liked him as a pod for round one. But it looks like at the moment we can plan without him for the Brisbane Heat, unfortunately. Jordan Buckingham, the 39.5k cheapie from the Adelaide Strikers, is said to be ready for round one by Ryan Harris, the South Australian head coach, who said that he's pretty much good to go. He apparently didn't suffer that cracked rib or the side strain or anything during the game for Australia A. He did it lifting furniture.
What does that tell you?
Don't lift furniture. Just play cricket.
Yeah, that'll do. I was going to say get someone else to do it, but yeah, just don't lift it.
Yeah, that'll do. Just don't do it. Just sort someone else out. There's people that get paid to do that stuff. So, but anyway,
right.
he's said to be good to go. So definitely good for our sides. For those of you looking to kind of squeeze every dollar out of your squad at the moment. Now, big news, mate, for one of your favourites from the West Indies, Shafane Rutherford and Shai Hope will both be available round one, which initially we didn't think they would be.
Everston, he's in. And you're just as excited as I, given you're a Thunder fan, but Shafane Rutherford and Shai Hope are going to be available for round one. Am I picking them? We'll see later on in the episode. But it's huge for Australian cricket having two high-profile West Indies excitement machines in the field ready to go for round one.
Yeah, 100%. Rutherford is such a big part of, obviously, the Thunder's plans moving forward, even though he's only here until, I think, round 5 or 6, and then he jets off to the ILT20. He's going to play a really big part at the start of this tournament for them, get them on the right foot. And Shai Hope, yeah, huge for the Hobart Hurricanes. But yeah, I probably won't be picking either of them, just due to the schedule, unfortunately, for the Thunder and the Hobart Hurricanes. It couldn't be worse, really. So we'll pass on them, but it'll be a very firm watch leading into that, mate. But
for sure.
Now, David Warner's come out and he said that he thinks he knows or he prefers a certain player to partner him at the top of the innings, and that man is 39.5k cheapie Sam Constas. So very good news for super coaches that we're going to have that kind of bat six guy that you can just put on your bench and just make really nice cash for you. I think he's nearly a must-have now, isn't he? Endorsed
is a very... I'm not sure what sort of word you could use given that Warner's the captain and he's going to have a say in who gets picked in the side.
Yeah.
So I reckon this is just code of, as he's in.
It's a little bit of PC non-committal. I don't want to tell you the answer, but here's the answer kind of style for David Warner. And usually David Warner's a pretty straight shooter. So he's not going to come out and kind of bluff you too much. He'll just say it how it is. So I think we can probably lock in Sam Constas and David Warner to open for the Thunder and Cam Bancroft to slide down to 3, I would assume, in this best lineup, which is great because we're going to be able to see the Thunder's best lineup from round one as opposed to a few other teams that are managing injuries. So very positive for the Sydney Thunder. Now, Horse, your Renegades played the Stars in a practice match very recently. Who were the top scorers in this one, mate? Because there was a fair bit going on in this game because obviously the Stars and the Renegades are both the most relevant teams, aren't they, to start round one? So what happened in this one?
It's funny, isn't it? Because a week ago, Josh Brown was on my cold list because in 10 innings, he didn't make over 16. But then in the space of 3 games, he's gone 80 in a T20, 35 off 29, and then on the weekend, 86 off 45 rocks. So this guy is just flying at the moment, and I hate it. I hate it, and I like it. He's your man. And we'll talk about him later. But he was the big difference maker in this Renegades versus Stars game. We look at likes of Mackenzie Harvey. He got mid-40s as well, and he looked pretty good with the stick. He batted at 4. And then when we're talking about bowling for the Renegades, Sutherland bowled, but he only bowled 2 overs. That's a bit of a talking point. But then you got the likes of Hassan Khan. You got the likes of Tommy Rogers, who took a couple of wickets. Fergus O'Neill bowled well as well. The Renegades have all of a sudden got a plethora of bowling options that they could go with. That even though Sutherland did bowl his 2 overs, for me personally, I don't see him bowling his 4 overs in round 1.
No, it just creates a lot of question marks around this whole bowling lineup. Like, there's only 20 overs to go around, and you've got potentially 6 guys that can, or even 7 guys that can bowl these overs. Rogers, Fergus O'Neill, and Zampa are obviously the 3 obvious ones, I think, that will definitely get their 4 overs. So there's 12 gone. Then you've got Kane Richardson, who everybody's pretty high on, 98K. You've got Hassan Khan, who's just been picked. We'll talk about these guys later. Hassan Khan, who's just been picked as a kind of backup second spinner. So he'll definitely get some overs as well. And then there's Will Sutherland. So, like, where does he fit into this kind of lineup? You know, there's a lot of question marks.
And Hassan Khan batted at 6, Sutherland batted at 7 as well, which to me shows their hand that they want to put Khan a little higher up the order. Which
naturally they'd probably rate him a little bit higher. He's a seriously good player, apparently, from what I've heard. I haven't seen much of him, but there's big talk, big raps on him. So good, some things to love there. Tim Seifert as well, for those of you that are on him, 30 off 15 rocks. So seem to be seeing them pretty well, which is lovely. Marcus Stoinis didn't bowl though, Horse, in this one. So do you want to?
No.
Are you worried about that, or do you think that this was just I think this was just an audition for everybody else. Marcus Stoinis is the captain. I don't think he really needed to bowl in this one.
Now, I'm a little concerned, not over the top, but I don't know. Stoinis likes to be the man, doesn't he? Bowling, batting, putting himself in positions in the field where he's going to make an impact. Yes, I get that this is a practice match, but you've got to ask yourself, with the bowling options that the Stars have, is this an older, wiser Stoinis where he goes, well, maybe I don't need to bowl myself as much as previous?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say Marcus Stoinis won't change, and he'll want to bowl himself, especially without Maxwell there. And look, if Webster's not there, it's an absolute green light that Stoinis is guaranteed to bowl. But I think we see that there's every chance that he bowls, and I'm not overly worried. I think this was more of all right, let's see how the guys like Brody Couch and those kind of guys that are on the fringe, right? Brody Couch bowled 3 overs. Like, they're not going to play in round 1. So I think it was more of an audition to see, all right, who's next? Who's ready? Stoinis didn't need to bowl because he's the captain. He knew what he needed to see. So I'm not concerned. I think for anybody worried about Stoinis, I think he's a pretty safe buy, and I think he will bowl. I'm not overly worried about it, but let's see how I feel about that in a week's time.
Just more on this game. Sam Harper batted at 3.
Yeah.
Yep.
Does that change your view?
Does he play?
I think he does in round 1, yeah.
And he kept in this game too, didn't he?
Yes, he did keep over Joe Clark. Definitely very relevant.
We put out a tweet a couple of weeks ago that with Joe Clark not keeping was it the CPL a couple of weeks ago when he was playing for Victoria, that he wasn't keeping, that does this potentially open the door for Sammy Harper to keep his spot in the side? And again, on the weekend, we saw that Sammy Harper did keep, and Joe Clark was fielding in the infield, but not keeping. So make of that what you will.
I'm going to guess that Harper plays in game 1. I'm not sure whether he bats 3 or not, though. I think it all depends on Webster. If Webster's not there, maybe Harper slides up to 3. But if Webster's there, I think Harper bats 6. I think he will keep, though. So that's one thing to keep in mind with Joe Clark, for those of you on him, is that you probably won't be able to get the bonus of the wicket keeping in that first game. This first round. We'll have to reassess when Maxwell potentially comes back as to what that all looks like. It's a bit of a fucking disaster at the moment. Your guess is as good as ours as to what that looks like. But they've hinted at Maxi potentially opening the batting when he comes back as well, which is, there's just so many moving parts and so many things that have been said in the media that probably won't be true. So we've just got to take it on face value as to what we know right now. So
Right.
it looks like Harper plays and Harper keeps, and Clark just opens the batting at this stage. Mate, the Hurricanes had a practice match as well today. Anything notable from those guys? Anything you took from that?
Chowdhury was, pardon my language, was just fucking awesome. He took 27 off a Riley Meredith over and made 65 off 30 rocks to win the game for the B bowling side, or however you want to say it.
Hurricanes purple, I think they were.
Yeah. Billy Stanlake, though, pretty interesting. So Billy Stanlake was bowling against the A-class batsman of the Hobart Hurricanes, and he took 3 for 25 from his 4 overs.
Okay. I mean, I'd love for him to be picked because he's cheap as fuck. But it just depends on how many spinners they want to play. That they've got Chris Jordan there who bowls his 4 overs, and he's one of the prime bowlers with Nathan Ellis in that team and Riley Meredith. So there's your 12 overs of pace bowling right there. You got Chowdhury that bowls spin. You got Paddy Dooley. So there's potentially your 20 overs right there. It just makes it tricky.
Nathan Ellis didn't play either.
Yeah, that's right. It makes it tough to know exactly where these guys fit in when guys like Ellis miss and all that. So I don't see Billy Stanlake playing. You got Salam Keel as well, Waqar Salam Keel. So he actually played pretty well, didn't he? Got a couple of holes.
Took 2 for 25 from his 4 overs.
Nice. So, yeah, I mean, 117K import price tag for him. So I don't know whether he's relevant at that price with the Hurricanes draw, but too many question marks. I don't think Billy Stanlake plays, unfortunately, in this squad. Or Peter Hatziglou probably doesn't even play in this unless they're going to play 2 spinners, which then they just play Chowdhury. So tough for the Canes. Not really much interest from me on any of the Hurricanes, except maybe a Shy Hope if he gets going, because he's been in tremendous form. So you want to ride the hot hand there. But that is all the news, guys. We're 21 minutes into the show. So there you go. I reckon we did all right. There's a fair bit happening, and we know that over the next 46 hours, there will be probably more than that come through in terms of news. So if you want to stay on top of the news, we update everybody in the Patreon, and that'll be probably 100%. The last time. Second last time I plug it tonight, I promise. Mate, we've got some games to talk about.
We do.
Let's move into the game preview, shall we? The sting is back. It's my favourite stinger of all time. Love it. Yeah. Guys, the game previews, they're brought to you by The Standard Squeeze, helping you drink responsibly and conveniently. You can hop on thestandardsqueeze.com is their website. Use the code IFS15. Get yourself 15% off everything in store. They keep your tinnies nice and cold. I've got my 4-in-1 here. They've got your combo packs as well that measure the perfect pour, so you know how much you've had and you know whether you can drive or not. So hop over to the Standard Squeeze. And also thanks to the Standard Squeeze for sponsoring the Squeeze of the Week, which is the top scorer for the Unlimited League. So another reason to jump into that league. 650202 is the league code. Now, mate, we've got not many people usually talk about this, but there is a little bit more to consider about game previews and looking at the BBL, and that's the weather. So we probably should have a chat about how the weather's going to impact round 1.
And now here's Ollie Williams with the weather forecast. Ollie?
It's going to rain.
Thanks, Ollie.
I love it.
It's not going to rain. Ollie Williams. It will not rain, which is a great update, mate. You're doing the hard yards here. So do you want to talk through what the next 5 days of cricket looks like?
Yeah, I can. So Perth Scorchers versus Melbourne Stars in Perth in 48 hours. It's usually pretty fucking hot in Perth. It's not going to be quite that hot, but it's going to be nice. 25 degrees when the first ball is bowled, and it'll just be nice. A little Fremantle doctor, as they call it, over in Perth. It'll just be nice cricketing weather. The Sydney Sixers versus the Renegades in Sydney, 28 degrees, no rain to speak of. Sydney Thunder versus the Adelaide Strikers at Manuka Oval. Canberra getting a round 1 game. That's really nice. Much unlike Canberra, it's going to be fucking hot there. It's going to be 36 degrees. So, yeah, don't rug up going to the cricket because you'll cook. Yeah, Melbourne Stars versus the Brisbane Heat at the G. It'll be just a nice couple of tinsies kind of weather, 26 degrees and no clouds in the sky. And the Renegades versus the Hobart Hurricanes at Alphabet Stadium, also known in Geelong as GMHBA Stadium. It's going to be 27 degrees and unlikely that the pitch is going to play like last year.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about pitch conditions and stuff when we get a little bit more information. It's hard to know at the moment because I haven't been watching pitch conditions for Sheffield Shield and things like that. And not a lot of games get played at GMHBA unless they're like practice matches leading in, and a lot of footy gets played there, I think, from memory. So,
Well, I can tell you that the centre square has already been roped off at GMHBA Stadium in preparation for next week's game. There was some photos that popped up on social media today, and Geelong trained away from there.
Yeah, okay. So Jasper here prefers Alphabet Stadium, so maybe we'll just roll with that for the season then. See if it catches on. So let's have a chat. We've got our predicted 11s here. We're going to talk through them. We're going to talk through our thoughts around how these teams line up, what the things are to consider from each matchup too, because there are a lot of different things that you've got to look at in terms of matchups, in terms of grounds that they're playing at, types of pitch surfaces, player form, and there's a lot else to cover. So let's chat Sunday, 7:15 p.m, the first game. And how more relevant is it going to be? You see the Stars, who are very, very popular, leading in on the double against the Scorchers at Optus Stadium. And I think probably the first thing to mention here, Horse, is the fact that it's going to be 4:15 p.m. in Perth. So we get somewhat a day game. How does that change things for you? Do you look at maybe a day game different to a night game?
Yes and no. So you don't have the effect of the night sky or the ball getting lost in the lights when you are fielding. But when we're talking Perth, when you get a nice clear day over in Perth, it doesn't really matter whether it's day or night. The spectacle is one of the best in Australia. So when you think Perth, Braino, and you think decks in Perth, what are the first two things that come to mind?
Freeway. And that's it. Just usually flat. And for the most part, it's such a beautiful place to bat. You look at all of the Perth Scorchers players and how they perform there with the stick at Optus Stadium, and you can see that they usually hit the ball quite nicely over there. Aaron Hardy averaging a ton. Josh Inglis always scores runs there. It's a shame that both of those guys are missing, which creates now question marks. But yeah, it's a lovely place to bat. So I'm expecting a pretty big scoring game with the bat in hand. So that's probably worth considering whether we're looking at, loading up on Scorchers batsmen. Are you looking at an emergency loop potentially of a Scorchers bat to start the season off, which is probably a pretty popular tactic, isn't it? Start with an emergency as a Scorcher and see how they go and assess from there.
Rate it. Really like it. And with the news that we heard today, Cooper Connolly batting at 3, is that right?
It's apparently that's the news. So him or Finn Allen, I tell you what, apparently from all word inside the Scorchers, I think it's Jackson Barrett that reports the news from out west.
Very, very credible source. Yep.
Yes, he has said that Finn Allen had a bit of a hit off-site today. It was off-site, whatever that means, and absolutely fucking crunched them everywhere. Everyone's in awe of how well and how clean this guy hits a ball, which I'm not surprised. But I tell you what, he could light the BBL up and be potentially in the conversation for top run scorers if he was here a little bit longer and didn't have to jet off. So, mate, let's talk these predicted 11s. Let's go through. So you'll see on the screen for those of you watching on YouTube Live. So you'll see our 1 to 11 there, and you'll also see maybe a green arrow trending up in the players that we're interested in. And then potentially you might even see on future teams as well a red arrow that trends down that we're not overly keen on, or someone maybe who's fallen out of relevance based on previous conversations. So Finn Allen at the top, Keaton Jennings partners him. Cooper Connolly bats at 3. Matthew Hurst comes in at wicketkeeper for Josh Inglis, who's going to be retained within the test squad. Nick Hobson at 5. Matthew Spores at 6. Ashton Agar at 7. And then we've got the 4 quicks, Jai Richardson, Andrew Ty, Jason Berendorf, and Lance Morris. Horse, anything there that you change, disagree with, or do you want to start expanding on these guys that we're a big fan of?
Matthew Spores is a 58.5k player, but as soon as Ashton Turner comes into the side, then he will take his position. Then we'll see Matthew Hurst here. He's come in for Josh Inglis now that we know that he's missing round 1. Who else we got missing? Or I think that might be about it.
Well, Aaron Hardy comes in at 3, and then you've got Josh Inglis at 4. Then we've got Ashton Turner to come in at 5. And then I would naturally see Cooper Connolly at 6, Ashton Agar at 7. So we're looking at a lot of place fillers at the moment. I would see Hurst dropping out, Hobson drops out, Spores drops out of their best 11. And we see Hardy, Inglis, and Turner all come in, as Turner's the captain. So he'll come back in and take the captaincy. I'm not actually sure who even captains this side, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it's For me, it's probably going to be Ashton Agar.
Yeah, I'd say you're probably right. I don't think they want to burden a quick with that responsibility. I think they just want him to focus on bowling. But speaking of a quick, mate, Jai Richardson at Optus Stadium averaged 66.4 Supercoach points over 20 games.
Wow. And he's 130K, isn't he?
130K, yep.
So you're saying pick him, and I'm saying pick him. Yeah.
Please. Don't pick him if you want. That's fine. I'm picking him. I won't be giving away my full team tonight. That's for Patreon, but he is in my team. And I think he's in most people's teams that know what they're doing, to be fair. I know that there is a risk of injury and the shoulder popping out, giving a high five and all that stuff. And if you're worried about that, then I get it. Andrew Ty's a nice little alternative there that we also pretty high on, that I think will have a great role and probably even match Richo in different ways. So Richo or Ty, whichever way you go. Ty is the pod at, I think, 7% owned. Richo's, I think, 30% owned, which is fair enough. And I think if that tells you anything, that's probably the priority or the preference that we go in that ownership as well.
Don't try and overthink the room.
No, spot on. So that's the predicted 11 for the Scorchers. Let's talk stars, mate. There's a bit going on because obviously they're a big talking point. So we'll give our opinion on all of these guys. But Joe Clark, partners Tom Rogers at the top. We've got Bo Webster, we think will be there at number 3.
Yep.
We've got Marcus Stoinis, the captain, at number 4. He slides up without Glenn Maxwell. Hilton Cartwright also slides up to number 5. Then we've got Sam Harper slots in at 6 with the gloves. Then you've got Tom Curran. We've got Joel Paris and Mark Steckety at 8 and 9. Hamish McKenzie at 10. Adam Milne, the latest New Zealand quick to be signed by the Stars, comes in at number 11. Now, we're pretty high on Webster and Marcus Stoinis for obvious reasons. Tom Curran, I think, goes without saying. Hamish McKenzie, mate, talk to me about him. He is currently sub 10% owned. Can you believe it?
Still.
Yep, 9.8.
He's going to bowl his 4 overs. If you bring up that graphic again, Braino, we can see there that Milne's pace, Steckety's pace, or a bowling machine, whichever way you'd like to talk about it. Joel Paris pace, Tom Curran pace, Cartwright when he bowls pace, Stoinis when he bowls pace. Webster can do a little bit of both. He's really the only spinning options that they've got there at the Stars. So at 68K or whatever he is, less than 10% is just phenomenal.
You can't not pick him. Osama Mir is also every chance of missing game 1 of round 3's double if his team in the Pakistani local comp, T20 comp, makes the grand final, which there's only 5 teams in this competition.
That's right.
So there's every chance of that happening. So, yeah, keep in mind that Osama Mir might miss game 1 of round 3, which opens the door for McKenzie as well. They're pretty high on him playing at the MCG as well. They're pretty excited about him from all reports. So Peter Morse is looking like he'd like to.
Hamish McKenzie did make 44 not out and was top scorer in the Stars practice match as well.
We're definitely not picking him for his batting skills, but that is very nice to know. Definitely. What else here, mate? Joel Parrott and Mark Steckety, I feel like they give rotation vibes with Peter Siddle. And I haven't named Peter Siddle in this predicted 11 because I think he probably will be the guy that misses out just after the Adam Milne signing. But I think what we see here is a Paris, Steckety, Siddle rotation where one of them sit out each game on rotation. Do you agree with that?
Oh, I think you're right. We know that Siddle's been around since dinosaurs existed, and he'll probably miss the first game because he won't be able to get the day pass signed from the aged care facility. But I really don't like the depth of the Stars bowling, and I fear that Perth batting first, they could really put on a monster score here.
They could, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see which way the toss goes. I don't think it's really going to play too much of a part for my team if the toss goes one way or the other. That'll probably be for other games with teams that are on the single. But, yeah, look, Jasper here is thinking Curran might bat ahead of Harper. I don't think so. I think Curran bats 7. I don't think they'd want Curran batting any higher than 7 at this point. Otherwise, their tail starts to get a bit long. He can hold a stick, but he's definitely not a guy that should be batting in the top 6. Let me ask you this. Are the Stars frauds? Because we look at the practice match result and the Renegades absolutely fucking pulled their pants down. Mm-hmm. Now, do we look into that too much or is it practice match? Who cares? Are you worried at all?
As a Renegade supporter, I love it. They are the biggest frauds in the BBL. Now, it's happened for a few years that they've had a really good team on paper and just haven't been able to put it together on the park. So I worry about their fast bowling depth. Like it's an upgrade bringing Curran in, and it's an upgrade bringing Milne in. But outside of that, I don't see anyone that can really tear a game apart.
I think Dennis,
there you go.
That's the name on the head here. Stars, a team of champions or the champion team. Yeah. A lot of good players individually, but just not a team that plays together.
No.
And, we look at Glenn Maxwell's taken a step down from the captaincy and Marcus Stoinis takes over this year. So it'll be interesting to see how that changes things for them.
For sure.
But for me, I'm a little bit concerned. And I think a lot of people that are loading up on Stars, I understand because the schedule's amazing. But do we not forget that Stars were fucking putrid last year for the majority? And they had their full star-studded lineup and they were still awful. Yep. So, definitely proceed with caution with the Melbourne Stars. Mm-hmm. Mate, let's move on to the second game here. We've got the Renegades and the Sixers at the SCG. So we know the one thing about the SCG is it's very relevant for spin. It always has been. And we see a lot of spinners in play here for the Renegades and the Sixers. And let me ask you this. Are the Renegades the real round one target preference? Because for me, I think they are. I think they're a team I'd want more Renegades in my team than I would Stars.
I have more confidence, not just because I support them, but I have more confidence in Renegades players than when I do Stars players. So when we're talking the likes of Zampa, who's heavily discounted at 80K, world-class leg spinner. He was tired last year. You can pretty much put last year's results for Zampa to the side. He is going to bounce back and he will bowl well this BBL campaign. Fergus O'Neill is perhaps the most informed fast bowler, the 23-year-old quick from Victoria. He's unreal and I expect him to make big strides this year in the BBL. You've got Hassan Khan, we spoke about at the top of the episode, who will bat at 6, can bowl a bit, and by all reports is a very, very exciting cricketer. Tim Seifert, the keeper from New Zealand, can bat a bit as well, but really adjusting to Australian conditions really well, made a 30-odd in the practice match against the Stars. Then you've got the likes of Josh Brown, who can pop off at any one time, Fraser McGurk, who can pop off at any one time. I see the spine of Sutherland. We haven't spoken about him yet. Tom Rogers. They've got a better team, don't they?
Oh, 10 times better. When you look at their top 5, and you haven't even included Jacob Bethel, who's not here yet.
Yeah.
They've got probably one of the hardest hitting top 5 or top 6s in the competition, let alone fucking world cricket, man. Some of these guys hit the absolute cover off the ball. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty excited to watch the Renegades play. And I know we said this last year and it kind of backfired on us, but they were carrying around blokes in wheelchairs for half the year before they all retired.
Well, they were.
They've got a young star-studded team now that all hit a ball very cleanly. I'm pretty excited to watch them play. So let's look at predicted 11s, mate. We'll start with the Sixers to start because it's at the SCG. We've got James Vince. Now, Daniel Hughes looks like he has recovered from this elbow injury enough to be able to slot into this team. So we've predicted him to open the batting with James Vince. We've got Josh Phillippe, who drops down to 3. Moses Enrique's the captain at 4. Jordan Silk. Jack Edwards at 6. I've got Hayden Kerr at the moment at 7. That could probably go a few different ways, to be honest. And then we've got Sean Abbott, Ben Dwarshuis, Todd Murphy, the spinner, at 10, and Jackson Bird at 11. And Moses Enrique has pretty much come out and said that Todd Murphy's going to be the guy that is the frontline spinner to start, that Hughes is good to go. The question mark becomes, who slots in at 7, Horse? Because for me, it could go with Kerr. They could go Chauhan and play 2 spinners at the SCG, which they know that they have a propensity to do. Mm-hmm. How do you see this going? Because there's a number of different directions for me.
Well, it's really only for one game, isn't it, until Hussain comes in round 2.
Yeah.
So it all depends on how the wicket's looking. If it's looking a little spinner friendly, I think they go for 2 spinners and they drop Kerr. But if it's more conducive to fast bowling and a little more flat, then they'll run with Kerr, especially with the extra bat that he gives them.
Yeah. Kerr's probably the best player and the best option, I think. And no matter who bats at 7 or who plays at 7 or who slots in, they dropped for Hussain anyway in game 2. Mm-hmm. So not an issue really, and definitely not a super coach option in round 1, unfortunately. No. If anything, maybe Joel Davies was a shout as well initially as a bit of a like-for-like player for Hussain.
Yeah.
So not quite sure how they play that. But, yeah, regardless, they've got to get through game 1 without him. But anything else to mention on Renegades Sixers, mate? We've got to touch on the Renegades team, but anything on the Sixers?
Do we get to talk about Jack Edwards again?
Hey, if you want to give everyone your spiel one last time, it's the last chance you get to talk about him.
I just filled the cup. That's all I'm going to say.
Good, done.
Yeah.
Renegades, best 11 or predicted 11 for round one. Tim Seifert opens the batting and wicket keeps. We've got Josh Brown opening the batting with him. We've got Jake Fraser-McGurk at 3, Laurie Evans at 4, Jono Wells at 5, Hassan Khan at 6, who has batted ahead of Will Sutherland at 7 in the practice match recently, which is why we've gone that direction. Will Sutherland, the captain, at 7. Tom Rogers, Fergus O'Neill, Kane Richardson, the quicks at 8, 9 and 10, and Adam Zampa to round out things at number 11. Talk to me about why we're not keen on Kane Richo, mate, because we've talked a little bit about these guys already. Why not Kane Richardson?
So on the weekend in Premier League cricket, I believe it was for Geelong, he took 0 for 47 off 4 overs. He bowled against the Stars, looked by reports very ordinary there as well. He just looks short of a run at the moment. And with that age being a bit of a factor there, I see him as the odd man out when we're talking Renegades bowlers. Yeah. I'm going to throw you a question here, Braino. So we've got Jono Wells there in the squad at the moment. Is there a chance that instead of Jono Wells, I believe he's top 5 for runs made in the BBL. Someone might have to fact check me there. But
yeah, he is.
Mackenzie Harvey, he's been making bulk runs in the one-day competition in Australia and also made a 44 against the Stars on the weekend. Could he almost slide into a number 5 spot there?
He could. Absolutely he could. I'm just thinking that they probably go for the stable option in Jono Wells. I think there's enough excitement around there for them to be able to carry Jono Wells as that anchor. Excuse me. And I think every team needs an anchor, with the bat in hand. Jordan Silk and Moses Enriques are those guys for the Sixers. And I think Jono Wells has always been that guy for every team, even when he was at the Canes, now when he's at the Gades. He's always been that middle order anchor where the guy, everyone else hits around him and he's the guy that just keeps churning over the singles and just keeps things together. I think every team needs that. And I think he's that. I think if they had Mac Harvey, they'd just have fucking 6 or 7 blokes that just want to swing the bat at everything. And I think that could be a recipe for disaster. We saw the Thunder get bowled out for 15 last year.
Yeah, that's right.
I'd rather not see that from any team again this year, let alone the Thunder. So, yeah, I think it's going to be Wells just for that reason.
Thanks, Kai. Wells is 3rd overall for runs made in the BBL ever.
There you go. That's fucking pretty impressive, isn't it? When you think about Jono Wells and what he's done, he's never been that kind of franchise player, has he? He's just played a bucket load of games and just been consistent as fuck. So
just played a role. Yep.
Props to him. Anything to mention here on the Renegades? Who are your picks here, mate? When you're looking at your round one team, who are the guys you're looking at?
Zampa, O'Neill, Rogers, Sutherland if you want to get spicy, Hassan Khan for sure, and then we look at the top of the order, Tim Seifert and Josh Brown. Jake Fraser-McGurk is interesting because he's not in great form, but fuck me, if he gets one right out of the middle and gets the confidence up, it could be on. It's
a very dangerous fade. And a guy that could get 5 and look terrible, or he could get 70 off 27 rocks and just absolutely decimate you. So he's very capable of that. I think last year I called him the mini Glenn Maxwell, and I think he's very capable of being that standard of player. It's just, does he have, and we spoke about this in previous episodes, does he have the gears in his game? Does he have the levels in his game where he can just chill a little bit? Everything's 110 miles an hour and he wants to whack the ball out of the park for the most part, every ball. And I think once he finds those gears to his game, where he can just kind of go up and down based on what the game situation needs, he'll become such a better player and a guy that will be a big, big part of Australian cricket moving forward in nearly all formats. So just a guy that I'm not overly keen on initially because just how erratic he is. But Seifert I'm pretty high on. I have been all preseason. Will Sutherland's an interesting one. I'm not overly keen on Will Sutherland at the moment. I know he bowled 2 overs in the Pracky match. But Zampa didn't play in that game, so we didn't see what their full rotation looks like. We spoke about that at the start. I think we see Will Sutherland bowl 2 overs max. And I think Kane Richardson, Hassan Khan get the 3 overs, and then you've got the quicks and Zampa to get the 4 overs each. So it's probably the way that I see their rotation. Cool. Let's move on, mate. Tuesday, 7:15 p.m, the 3rd game of the week. We've got the Strikers at the Thunder at Manuka Oval in Canberra. Usually a pretty flat deck as well, but funnily enough, Manuka Oval is the worst pitch for batting first in the competition last year, with the lowest average score per team batting first. I think it was 140 runs per innings for the batting first team. Does that affect things for you at all, or do you just think that the Thunder were that terrible last year that stat is more reflective of the Thunder's season as opposed to the pitch.
Thunder was shocking.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm probably not reading too much into that. Thunder couldn't put a score on the board no matter where they played.
Yeah, agreed. Short and Overton, probably the two big talking points from the strikers.
Mm-hmm.
Are they good enough to captain on a single? Because that's the conversation, really. There's not many really Renegades that are putting your hand up going, yeah, I'm 100% confident in captaining him. Could you captain Short or Overton on a single against the Thunder, knowing the Thunder are poor?
No. So you've got to ask yourself this. You're bringing in Overton and Short because while one almost will lose money from the bat, and that's Short, you've got to find the money in round 2 to bring them in. So you've got them there as just a safeguard that, yeah, they're going to make a score for you, but you're not looking to load up on Cs or VCs with them because, geez, that's fraught with danger, isn't it?
It's tough, isn't it? Yeah, Corey Blackledge in the chat going Fergus O'Neill as his captain. Maybe he's read the captain's article that I put up about 3 hours ago because, Fergus O'Neill's in that conversation. But
let me put this to you. Thunder are shit again. They bat first and they make 110.
Do you think they're worse than this year, or do you think they're better? I think they're better.
Yeah, I think they're better. But
Warner's here all year. Shafane Rutherford makes a big.
He makes a huge difference.
We fell apart in the middle overs. We had Daniel Sams batting 6. So
yeah, that was the issue. Yeah,
and Lockie Ferguson, big quick, should make a difference for us as well. In addition to Sams and Tanvi Sanger, will take another step forward again this year. Yep. So I don't think they're going to be as bad, but yeah, they're definitely not a good team. Yeah, they're in the bottom 4 in this competition, but yeah, it's interesting conversation. Anyway, let's move to predicted 11s, mate. Let's talk about the strikers. We'll talk about the Thunder. It's their home game. Okay. We've got David Warner, the captain, up top with Sam Constas. We mentioned earlier from the news that David Warner's kind of endorsed him. So Sam Constas opened the batting with Warner. Cam Bancroft at 3 with no gloves, 0 interest from me. Sam Billings with as the wicketkeeper at 4, Ollie Davies at 5. Those two could probably swap or interchange based on what the situation needs. I think Ollie Davies is one of the guys that will push the pace. So if they are doing pretty well, I see Ollie Davies coming up above Billings. Shafane Rutherford is that finisher at number 6, which is exactly what they wanted. Daniel Sams at 7. Chris Green at 8, who is severely underrated. We'll be talking about him come round 6. Wes Agar, Tanvi Sanger, and Lockie Ferguson, the big quick from New Zealand, round out the tail there. So that is the predicted 11. Any comments here on any of these guys bar Constas? Because I think that's pretty obvious.
That team looks a lot better. You got a lot more fear factor when you're talking bowling with Lockie Ferguson and Wes Agar throwing them down instead of who they had last year, McAndrew and Hatcher.
Yeah, fuck me. Hatcher.
Yeah. There you go. No, so you got two fast bowlers who bowl 145 plus, throwing them down. You know, and if the wicket's doing anything, then who knows what could happen. But then you've got Sanger, who's an up-and-coming leggy that he may take that next step as well. And he was someone that we both had our eyes on last year, but he just never took off, did he?
No, he just didn't. I mean, look, it's hard to take off for the Thunder. So, when you're surrounded by players that are underperforming, it's really tough to come into those situations. So, we were pretty high on guys like Tanvi Sanger to start the season, and he did well enough at his price.
Yeah.
But, yeah, just not overly relevant. And, of course, we're talking about the Thunder here who don't have a double until round 6. So we'll be talking about them a little bit more in the lead up to that. But let's talk strikers, mate, because they have a round 2 and round 4 double. Very, very relevant. And we've got Matt Short, the captain, up top, paired with not his brother or his cousin, Darcy Short, no relation. Chris Lynn at 3. Jake Weatherald comes in at 4. We've got Jamie Overton at 5. Harry Nielsen comes in at 6 to wicket keep. I'm still not sure whether he bats 6 or 7. Fabian Allen might
10.
jump in there. Or 10. Brendan Doggett at 8. Henry Thornton at 9. Cam Boyce 10. Lloyd Pope 11. I think they've shown their hand and they've been very vocal about the fact Tim Payne has wanted two spinners in this team, 2 frontline spinners, I should say, in addition to guys like Fabian Allen, Matt Short, Darcy Short. They've got 5 guys that can bowl spin in this squad. So I'm interested to see what direction they go, but I think that's going to be what they look like come Tuesday night. Agree?
This is my pick for the winners of this year's BBL.
Oh, that's a big call.
I think that they're that well-rounded. You look at the likes of Matt Short, who's the best BBL player that we have here in Australia. Chris Lynn, who could pop off at any time. Jake Weatherald's been in some pretty good form as well. Jamie Overton is a world-class all-rounder. We're not going to talk about Harry Nielsen because Ollie Pope is coming into the side round 2.
Yep.
For their double. And for those of you that are in the Patreon, I'm sticking by my comments that Fabian Allen will more than likely get dropped if his run or his lack thereof scores and bowling continue, because he has been in some atrocious form.
It's been, pretty poor, hasn't it, really? I think Fabian Allen, when we look at I've got them here, we look at his year in T20 across the world, the IL T20 in Jan-Feb at the start of the year averaged 18.5 Supercoach points in that competition. The SA20, he averaged 17.5 Supercoach points per game in 8 games. Then he averaged 35 in 11 games in the LPL. Then he he only played 1 game in the Canada Premier League and he scored 3 Supercoach points in that game. And then in the CPL, the Caribbean Premier League, he averaged 42.1 in 10 games, which is his home tournament. So these are his conditions that he feels most comfortable in, and he only averaged 42. So that's my concern is I think the ceiling is around that 40, 45 mark if he's playing his absolute best cricket, and I don't know whether he's going to. So he's a big strong fade for me. For anybody interested in Fabian Allen, I'd be jumping off and going elsewhere at that price point.
For sure.
Henry Thornton, I'm pretty high on. I think that Henry Thornton is not severely underpriced, but I think he's underpriced at 97K. He's a guy that I'm looking at for my starting team, knowing that he's got 2 doubles in the first 4 rounds. Aside from that, it's got to be Overton and Short are the 2 big ones. You'll notice that I haven't put a little green arrow next to Matt Shorthorse. Do we want to talk about that now, or do we wait until later?
Well, it's hard to go up from the most expensive player ever in BBL, isn't it?
Yeah. What do you you give me your thoughts first. I've got kind of strong opinions on Matt Short.
Yep.
Is he in your team?
Or yes.
Okay. Tell me why.
I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Because at some stage, or not at some stage, for round 2, you're going to want him in your team. So when we're talking about the outs, the ins, the injuries, the indecisions, everything that's going on prior to round 1, the one constant is that Matt Short's going to play and he's going to open the bat and he's going to field in dangerous positions. If he bowls, you know what? They had Ollie Pope. They had Cameron Boyce last year and he still bowled his 1 or 2 overs and took a wicket here and there. I'm not phased about the bowling. I'm happy for him to lose 20 or 30K if that's what happens, but I'll have him locked and loaded as my VC C option in round 2 for their double and then in round 4 for their double again.
Fair. I can't argue against that. I think my view is quite spicy and not popular. But when I'm looking at this lineup, when they've got 5 spinners available, right, they've got Fabian Allen. They wouldn't have drafted him without a plan to bowl him. They're not just going to pick him at 7 and go, here, you can be our specialist number 7 bat that isn't really a good batsman. And you can do no bowling and we're going to pick you just because you're an amazing fielder.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. So he's going to bowl. He has to bowl. In addition to Boyce and Pope, who have been, Tim Payne's come out and said that they're going to bowl in tandem and they want to pick them together. He's been very vocal about that. So there's your 3. You've got 3 spinners right there. And then you've got your quicks in Doggett, in Thornton, in Overton that'll get through their 4 overs each. There's 12 overs gone between those 4 guys, guaranteed. 3 guys. And then I would say Boyce and Pope potentially bowl 3 each, depending on who's the hot hand. They might bowl 4. Where are the overs for Matt Short? And to answer Kai's question around you have to hold 100K to get Short if you get round 2. What if you don't get him in round 2 and you completely fade him? And that's like wild chat, right? Wild conversation. But this is the kind of conversation that if this comes off, you're in the fucking conversation to win Supercoach.
If you, my friend, fade Matt Short, I will send you a Bunnings voucher and you can make your way down there, buy yourself a wheelbarrow to set your bloody agates in so you can walk around if it comes off with your agates in the wheelbarrow.
I thought you were going to say something else then from Bunnings.
No. Don't mind
Bunnings. And Kai's on spot on. The season is either over or it's completely on by the end of round 2 if you fade Matt Short. And honestly, this could backfire completely. And I'm not 100% for it or against it at this point, but I'm leaning towards fading Matt Short just due to the fact that do I want to pick a 304K batsman only? I know he's fucking good, but is he that good? You know, like we've talked about how BBL Supercoach is volatile as all fuck. It's the most volatile Supercoach sport there is. So he cops a good nut from Lockie Ferguson in the first over at Manuka on an ordinary wicket. You've got 0, and he drops 30K. That's fine. That's not an issue. Corey's spot on. He averaged 80 with the bat last year. So if he averages 80 with the bat this year, he's still definitely going to be a top 3, top 4 player. Guaranteed. Yep. Probably even a top 3, top 2 player. But what if I aim to get him in round 4 for their round 4 double? And I get him at 200K. I get him at 180K. If everything goes my way, which I don't think it will. But those are the things you need to look at, because tell you what, the fucking team I'm looking at right now without Matt Short in it is absolutely stacked versus the team that I have with Matt Short. And I'm like, I don't love it as much. I don't like it anywhere near as much. So you've got to make a lot of sacrifices. You've got to pick a Jordan Buckingham, who I actually don't think plays, to answer Dennis's question. I think Doggett's ahead of Buckingham. Mm-hmm. So you're picking Buckingham, you're picking Salzman as a loop option, you're picking Constas, and you're picking Doran. There's 4 guys that aren't really going to make you much cash. Constas will, but the other 3 won't. So you're sacrificing a lot of cash gen to buy a guy that is definitely not guaranteed to score well. Argue.
Very, very good point. If you're in the Patreon, ladies and gentlemen, you will see Braino's team before round 1. So it's free to join. Jump in and you'll have access to it before round 1.
Just realised I went on the world's biggest rant. Forgive me. But anyway, I'm very passionate about this Matt Short conversation because fucking Scobes got me fired up about it the other day. And we'd like to go back and forth about.
He is the president of the Matt Short fan club, though, isn't he?
Absolutely, he is 100%. Yeah. Let's move on, mate. Let's move on to the Wednesday game. Heat and Stars at MCG. We'll talk about predicted 11s. We can skip the Stars because I think aside from Maxwell, the team stays the same. Stars at the MCG, they're better, I think.
Yeah, they are.
Not much better, but I think they're better. The question becomes, does Maxwell play game 2? Let's assume that he does, right, for argument purposes, just so that we can bypass that conversation. No Spencer Johnson, no Michael Neser. The Heat are definitely underdone. Let's have a look at how they line up. Colin Munro, captain at the top with Max Bryant, I think, opens the batting with him.
I think you're right.
Matt Renshaw at 3, I'm very interested in because at 68K for a guy of his pedigree, I think he's definitely someone we should be looking at in our starting team to facilitate that Matt Short pick if we need it. Tom Alsop at 4, the Pom, who can also hold the gloves. We've got Jimmy Pearson at 5, I think, who wicket keeps. We've got Paul Walter at 6. Jack Wildermuth comes in, I think, for Michael Neser. He is pretty much a like for like with Michael Neser. 58K bat bowl, very interesting pick. I don't actually think he's that good, but I think he's just probably the most appropriate pick here. Xavier Bartlett at 8. Will Prestwidge comes in at 9, I think, to replace Spencer Johnson. Otherwise, that's Spencer Johnson's spot if he's fit. And then we've got the 2 spinners, Swepson and Kuhneman, to round out 10 and 11. Any thoughts, mate?
Geez, it's a big hole without Nessa and Johnson, isn't it, to fill?
Huge. And, I mean, Nesa's going to be out for probably 4 rounds. Mid-January, they're looking at. Like, he could miss the majority of the BBL based on this. It's a hamstring tendon as well, which takes a lot more time to come back from than just normal soft tissue.
Yep. Have you seen the comments from our analytics manager, Supercoach Matrix?
Analytics manager, tall Paul is very tall. It is good chat. It is very in-depth conversation. Yeah. And he does have the best nickname in the league, I think. 100%.
I think Tall Paul and Xavier Bartlett, their roles are very crucial to how Brisbane go this year now.
Yeah, I think so. I agree. They've got a round 3 double, so I think you can afford to start with a couple of these guys and feel okay about it. My only concern is that they're definitely not going to be as good.
No, they're not.
And when you look at the top 5 of Munro, Bryant, Renshaw, Alsop, Pearson,
that doesn't scream runs. You
haven't got the depth of Neser at 7 either. You've got Wildermuth. Bartlett can hold a stick. There's every chance he could bat 7, Wildermuth 8. But, it doesn't fill me with confidence like it would when you look at the normal squad from these guys. So, they've obviously held roster spots for Usman, for Marnus as well. So keep them in mind for round 7 and beyond. All of those guys come in round 7.
That's right. Yeah.
But, Renshaw is probably the only guy I'd look at just based on price at this point in time from the Heat.
For sure.
Who wins this one, mate? Heat and Stars?
Stars.
Okay. Fair. With Maxwell,
I think it's still going to be without Maxwell. I think he'll miss all of round one. But you look at that bowling lineup of Brisbane, and outside of Bartlett and Tall Paul, you've got the likes of Wildermuth, you've got the likes of Prestwich, the two spinners who are okay, but it doesn't strike fear into you.
Not like previous years. Like they're the defending champions. That's probably the issue is we're putting them on a pedestal, right? So it's tough, and I'm definitely not saying that Allsop's bad. I'm just saying that when you see Allsop at 4, is he the best 4 in the competition? No, I'd probably say he's probably in the bottom 4 bats in the competition, which just makes you question whether these guys are going to do as well as they did last year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, some concerns there. But again, this is why we're picking Stars players. So this second game at the MCG is probably more advantageous, I think, for your Melbourne Stars picks than that first game at Perth. But again, Perth are also under strength. So Stars have 2 teams that they're playing that are under strength to start things off, which is a big advantage for them. It's a shame they're not missing half of their fucking squad as well. It just feels like we're getting half of round 1, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Anyway, is what it is. Let's talk the last game of the week, mate. We've got Thursday. We've got the Hurricanes at the Renegades. Let's preview the Hurricanes team. We've talked about the Gades already. Matt Wade at the top with a big fat red arrow. If I could put 2 of them there, I probably should put 2 of them there, to be honest.
Yeah.
Caleb Jewell opens the batting with Matt Wade. Now, this is based on what we've seen from the practice match today. Shai Hope now is available. I think he comes in at 3 because Ben McDermott batted 4 in the trial game today.
He did.
Nikhil Chowdhury also batted 5 and Tim David batted 6. So I think this could be the way their top 6 looks. And then the bottom 5 is how we expected it. Chris Jordan at 7, Paddy Dooley at 8, Nathan Ellis, the captain, at 9, Waqar Salomon-Keel at 10, and Riley Meredith, the pacer, at 11. I like Riley Meredith at the price.
Yeah, so do I. He's a definite option there. And what was it today? He took 2 wickets, took a catch, and 62 Supercoach points, even though he went 2 for 50 from his 4 overs.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Look, I would love to talk about the Hurricanes more, but I just don't care because their double is round 8. I don't think you even need – there's too many other cheapies and other teams that play doubles earlier. I just don't think there's any point in talking about them too much. But let me ask you this. The one thing that I think is favourable for the Renegades in both of their games is they're playing at very spin-friendly locations. They play game 1 at the SCG. They play game 2 at Marvel. Both of those pitches have been very well known to spin.
Game 2's at Alphabet Stadium.
Oh, GMHBA, sorry. Yeah, still handy location.
Mm-hmm.
Are we looking at Hassan Khan? Are we looking at Adam Zampa?
We absolutely are, yes.
I think I've got both of those guys earmarked. I think I'm looking at maybe one or the other. I think it's hard to go past Zampa at this point in time, but Hassan Khan's put his hand up in this practice match too. So Alphabet Stadium could be seeing a little bit of turn. It did last year too, to be fair. So it'll be interesting to see. You'd know a bit more about this than me. Talk to me about the dimensions of the ground. Is it is long, square, short, straight?
Yeah, that's right. So it's the opposite to when the AFL's played. They've got short wings, which means the ground is a little more narrow. But when we're talking BBL, that's flipped on its side. So
gotcha. So short, straight is nice, but long square is a little bit trickier to get the quicks away than if they're bowling that back of a length. So it could be interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, look, I think the Renegades win this one. I'm not a big fan of the Hurricanes this year, but it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing Shai Hope play. That's what I'm looking forward to.
He's exciting, isn't he?
This guy, man, he's such a good grab for them. Ricky Ponting's super high on him as well. He was at the Delhi Capitals, I think it was, with Punter.
That's right. Yes.
Yep. So they'll have a good relationship already. I think they can build on that in the BBL for the Hurricanes. So see how we go.
Talk to me about Stowe, who signed today for the Renegades.
I think he's going to be a backup to Zampa, is my opinion. I don't think he sees many games, if any, unless Zampa needs a break, which I don't think he will. He's coming in pretty fresh.
Yeah, that's
Or they want to play 2 spinners, but then they've got Hassan Khan, who leaves after. Does Hassan Khan leave for the ILT20?
I think he does. Round 6, he's gone.
I think. Yeah, so that could be interesting to see whether he maybe plays a part at the back end of the year.
It'll be a nice downgrade option back end of the year, yeah.
Good player, though. 3 for in the practice match, too. So definitely
been taking a lot of wickets at Premier League level too.
Definitely. So good guy to keep an eye on, I think. Yeah, basement price, but yeah, not a consideration initially. Mate, let's talk very quickly. I want to do a bit of a rapid fire yes or no on these pods and anti-pods. We'll talk ownership of the top 10 most owned players.
Target acquired.
Rapid fire yes or no, mate. Marcus Stoinis, 63% owned.
Yes.
Adam Zampa, 50% owned.
Yes.
Matt Short, 45% owned.
Big yes.
Jake Fraser-McGurk, 43% owned.
No.
Glenn Maxwell, still 39% owned.
He's still 39% owned. No.
Will Sutherland, 38% owned.
No.
Sam Constas, 35% owned.
Yes.
Bo Webster, 34% owned.
If he's playing, yes.
Aaron Hardy, still 34% owned.
No.
Sam Harper, 34% owned.
How the fuck is he still 34% owned?
I reckon people just make their team and then they just don't look at it until Saturday night, Sunday morning, which is fair enough. I know people aren't diehards like us.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to see
how badly did he burn you last year?
How much time you got? We've already been going for an hour 5. I don't want to extend this any longer than we have to, but yeah, not good. Look, I get why people are looking at him because they want to facilitate a Matt Short team with Overton and Curran and all these other guys, but we just don't have these other guys to fill our squad with now. And I think maybe I might have missed it. Maybe Kai said in the chat he actually didn't need to sacrifice too much to get his team together to have Matt Short in it. It was only a couple of cheapies, remember? Yeah, here we go. Yeah. So my team has Constas and Doran, and the lowest bench player is Meredith. So look, you don't need to do anywhere near as much sacrifice as I thought. But in saying that, you don't need Harper. I think you could comfortably pay up for Seifert. And my thinking behind paying up for Seifert is that he's a really easy move on to a premium round 2 double guy. Like at that
if
price
Inglis
point,
gets released.
Yeah, 152K. You could go him to Inglis perfectly because there won't be a test match on through that period of time for the round 2 double. So Seifert to Inglis round 2 is a perfect trade. And you don't need cash to make it happen, which I think is the most important part. Seifert is the perfect price point to be able to move on to a guy at nearly any price point, depending on what you do with your other trades. So that's probably why I'm thinking of running with him to start things off, as opposed to a guy like Josh, what's his name, Joe Clark, or Sam Harper, who are very hard to get to at their price points. Let's talk severely under-owned players, mate. Who you got first on the list here at guys that are just sliding under the radar?
Right, let's throw a few at you, mate. I've got 6 here, but I want you to tell me whether you would have them in your side or not.
Can I say yes to all of them?
No.
Oh, okay.
You have to at least say no to one.
Okay.
Adam Milne, 1.8%.
Yes.
Hassan Khan, only 3.5% owned.
Yes. How do I say no to any of the... Okay, keep going.
Yeah. Finn Allen, 6.1% owned.
Yep.
Andrew Ty, 7.2% owned.
Yep.
Tom Rogers, 8.8% owned.
I'm going to say no, only because I have to say no to someone. And I love Tom Rogers. And this was kind of not developed for a yes or no scenario, so thanks for that. But
you're welcome.
I think Tom Rogers could be good, but I think out of these guys, he could be competing against there's too many other mouths to feed potentially.
Yep.
I do like him though.
And then the last one, mate, Hamish McKenzie, 9.8% owned still.
I don't understand how he's so cheap. Yeah, so how he's so under-owned and cheap. 69K, pick him. Just pick him. He's going to play the double. He'll be the only spinner for the Stars. Yeah, absolutely. And Tom Rogers for the Renegades is that reference, Jasper. Sorry, we probably should have qualified that. But yeah, 6 guys that are very, very under-owned. And I know that a couple of these guys have already been added into the app about maybe 2 days ago. So that's probably why they're off the radar. But Adam Milne should bowl death and have a really nice role for the Stars. Hassan Khan looks like he'll bat 6 and bowl some spin. So they're both really good picks, and I think they should be in your team. So I think the only reason Finn Allen, Andrew Ty are both not more well-owned is because of their price at that 150 mark. That's probably the only question. So, but now that Inglis is out, Finn Allen becomes a little bit more relevant because that's a nice little pivot if you had Inglis to just get Seifert and go down to Allen at bat. So
for sure,
don't mind that. And Hassan Khan is now up to 5%. We did these notes this morning, by the way, so that we can see that Hassan Khan's gone up 1.5% in 10 hours. So there you go. Happy days. Now, mate, a new segment to the show is the Game Day Squad of the Week, brought to you by Game Day Squad. Now, Game Day Squad, they're the next big thing when it comes to fantasy sports. It's not only free to play, but it's free to win, guys. So you can download the app. It doesn't cost you a thing. You actually don't even have to pay any money inside the app to build your squad. You can purchase and trade for cards if you really want to. And if you're a gambler, you can rip open some packs. You can level up your squad with cards from bronze, silver, and gold to platinum, diamond, and legend. Compete against others and win not only the overall, but you can win every week. Game Day Squad actually give away $25,000 in prizes every season. So you can download the app today, use the code IFSAUS, as you see on the screen there, and get yourself a bonus 3-player rare pack to kick off your squad. And you can also join our mini league, as we're going to be giving away a yearly Patreon subscription, and Game Day Squad are going to be coming to the party with a few cool prizes as well. So jump on in. Now, Game Day Squad of the Week, mate, we'll pop it up on the screen. We've picked a squad that we think could take it out this week and win some cash or win some prize money. Do you want to go through what that squad looks like?
I can. So as we can see on the screen here, but for those of you that are listening on all good audio platforms, we'll go through it quickly. We can keep a spot. We've got Tim Seifert or Seifert, however you say his surname. In the bats position, we have Finn Allen, David Warner, and Philippi from the Sixers. In the all-rounders positions, we have Bo Webster, Matt Short, Tom Curran, and the Stoin, Marcus Stoinis. In our bowlers, we've got Xavier Bartlett, Adam Zampa, and Jai Richardson. It's important to know when you're playing Game Day Squad, even though teams might be on the double, it takes the best score. So effectively, you've got 2 goes at getting the best score, but only the best score counts.
So it's much more relevant to look at the best player that round in the best individual matchup, as opposed to looking at just chasing doubles, which I really like. I like how it's very different to Supercoach. It's a different format. It's a different scoring system as well. So you'll see on the screen here, you can see with the scoring, a lot of there's some similarities, but I do like how they actually score boundaries and sixes hit as additional points on top of the runs per point. They also give you a 30-run bonus as opposed to just a 50 and 100-run bonus. So some extra points there to make. If you get dismissed for a duck, you get a -2 as well, which is kind of cool. You got your bowling stats there. So same for a wicket. Maiden overs are very rare, same for a dot, but you also get a 4-wicket bonus as well as a 5 and a 3-wicket, and the extras are the same. And then, of course, in the field, you get 8 points for a catch, 15 for a run out and a stumping, and then you get a 3, 4, and 5 catch bonus as well, which is rare, but I like the way they've scored that. So scoring's a little bit different, format's a little bit different, and the good thing, Horse, is that you can actually pick a team, and you can carry this team through multiple BBLs. So it's not like you just have to pick a separate team every year. You start accumulating some of those cards, like your Sam Constas, your Will Salzman, your Marley Beardmans, your Callum Vidlers, like all of these guys that could potentially be massive in 2-3 years' time for their squads.
For sure. That code again, FC Sports, is IFSAUS. You put that in when Braino, I'll put up the slide now, but if you put that in when you go to sign up, mate, you get a 3-player rare pack. So as you can see on the screen there, Matt Short, number 2, and then above it, it's 1.4 times. That means if you've got a diamond Matt Short card, you get 1.4 times his score for the day.
Pretty cool way to make it work. No captaincy or anything like that. You're just picking your best squad. And we've got a mini league that we're giving away prizes in, and a pretty big prize to end. I think a yearly Patreon subscription for Insight Unlimited costs around the 150 mark. So we're giving away some prizes throughout that tournament as well. So you can jump in. You can find the league code inside the Patreon. It is a free post inside the Patreon. Just become a free member in there. The link is in the description below. Mate, we don't have much left to go through, which is great because it's, episode 1. But we should talk about captains, shouldn't we?
I think so.
Are you ready, kids?
Aye, aye, Captain!
Let's do this in 3 parts, Horse. VC, C, and then let's do another category to this and talk about emergency loophole options and DNPs because they're going to be pretty relevant to start things off. Who are the VC options that you're looking at to start things?
For me, let's just go 3 from the stars, mate. Curran, who is very relevant for me. Webster, if he does play, and the Stoin himself, Marcus Stoinis.
My preference out of the look, I'm struggling to split Curran and Webster if Webster plays. I think Webster's batting role is definitely trumps, and also game 1 he'll be playing at Optus Stadium on a flat wicket. He'll be coming up against a good bowling squad though, so but a nice pitch to bat on. He'll be the guy that they'll be relying on to score their runs, considering Maxwell's not there. I think he gets a pretty good opportunity to bowl and bat, Webster, but Curran's role bowling death, maybe the toss would affect which one you go with, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that if the Stars bowl first, you'd be more inclined to look at a guy like Curran?
I would prefer Curran, yes.
I think if the Stars bat first, I'd look at Webster as a VC, but if they bowl first, I'd look at Curran. I think it's probably the way that I think, because when you look at the toss, right, if they're bowling first, you know that the Stars are going to bowl all their overs. They're probably going to bowl death unless they bowl them out. So Curran's going to get his death overs. He's going to get his power play and his surge overs. If they bat first, you know that Webster's got a ton of overs in front of him. Mm-hmm. There's not a chance that Stars are going to bowl Perth out for 40 and Webster doesn't get a bat. I understand that, but he might get less of a bat depending on what target they're chasing. So there's a few different things there, but I like Curran as a VC if they're bowling first and Webster if they're batting first. And Stoinis, I mean, look, if you've got big nuts, you talked about going and buying a wheelbarrow from Bunnings. Maybe you're going to need to buy a few wheelbarrows for all those people that VC Stoinis.
Yeah, one for each agate. There you go.
Yeah. Who are we looking at captain, mate? Because captain's tricky. I'm not 100% certain on captaincy.
If the VC loops do not work, then I think we've got to target Renegades players, mate. So I'll give you three. Fergus O'Neill, who's probably the most informed fast bowler in Australia at the moment. Tommy Rogers, who we know hasn't been in the greatest of forms, but T20-wise, he has been taking wickets in practice matches. We know he bowls death, and we know he does it quite well. He did average over 50 for a couple of seasons only 2 years ago. And our man, Adam Zampa, the guy with the Slim Shady haircut, he's going to bounce back, 80K. He's going to bowl 4 overs. He's got a mean wrong'un. He's going to take wickets. Which way would you go?
Look, I've been tooting Fergus O'Neill's proverbial horn all preseason. I think I'd probably back him in. I looked at his role in the 2 games that he played last year. In game 1 that he played, he took 2 for 20 or 4, I think it was. And both of his wickets were bowled. The ball that he bowled Matt Wade was an absolute fucking seed, by the way. Like pitched on leg, hit the top of off. He bowled all 4 up front with the new ball in that game, but then he also bowled the 20th over in his second game. So they're definitely showing him that they like how versatile he is. He can bowl death and he can bowl up front. So I'm not 100% sure how they go, but I know that he's able to do both. So my preference would be that he bowls at the back end of the innings. But if he's bowling well and the ball's hooping, they'll keep bowling him and he'll bowl his 4 out at the top. For sure. So I'm probably preferring Fergus O'Neill at this point. But again, Tom Rogers, kind of much of a muchness. Are you going to pick both of those guys? Then you need to decide, but I'd probably go with O'Neill. And Zampa is safe, but the risk for Zampa, I don't know. You tell me what you think about this with Zamps. Because he's the frontline spinner, he's the Australian spinner in all formats, aside from tests, in all white ball formats. Do they see him off? They take less risk against Zamps and go at Hassan Khan a little bit more?
Or do they try and make a name for themselves and go large against him?
Yeah, there's a lot of ego floating around, isn't there? But I'm a little bit worried that, Zamps is going to get his economy rate bonus, but is he going to take that many polls? Because they're probably going to be a little bit more cautious against him potentially.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just my thoughts. Talk to us about emergency loops, mate, because, I think the team to target at Perth, considering they're playing game 1, I always like to emergency my guys that are only on a single, though. Because if you're emergency a guy on a double like Stoinis, right, he's playing game 1, but if you put the emergency on him, he gets one of those mid scores, you're then taking a punt on him doing well again in the second game.
That's right.
I'd rather just know what score I need to take. So Perth are the emergencies for me. Who are you looking at?
No, you're absolutely right. Perth are the emergency players that we're going to look at in round 1, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm going to give you 4 players here. Jai Richo, you said it at the top of the show, mate, averages 66 in Perth. That's 66 Supercoach points per game in 20 games in Perth. So very nice looping option there. AJ Ty, we know he bowls death really well. For those of you old enough to remember Ian Harvey from Victoria, bowls a slower ball like him, can do it multiple ways. Very good death bowler. Cooper Connolly, if you've got a set of agates the size of Braino, 130K, could pay off, might not. Hasn't played a lot of cricket, but apparently was hitting them to all parts in their practice match or intra-club match there yesterday. And my favourite Perth player, Finn Allen. if this guy gets going, boy, oh boy, wowee, he'll have fireworks popping off his bat.
Yeah, look, you can't really go wrong with any of these guys, can you? Like, I think you've got to maybe decide. It depends on how many Perth players you have. If you've got one in bat and one in bowl, which I'd probably recommend, you're probably just emergencing them straight away. Deadly's got a good question. Realistically, Horse, how many runs are you getting before your hammy goes?
Don't need a run when they clear the rope, son.
He's got the hat on as well. You want to give us a story about the old baggy cap you got on there?
No, it's just when I was playing Bendigo League cricket here in Bendigo. It's my local club here, Bendigo United Cricket Club. Shout out to the boys down there. They're doing pretty well this year in the seconds and the first, actually. At the moment, they're both sitting pretty inside the top 4. So, yeah, get around the boys. But, yeah, it's cricket season. I love it. It's just been sitting in the cupboard since I retired a few years ago, and I thought, fuck it, let's bring it out.
Yeah, why not? Absolutely. Maybe we'll just get dressed up in our whites from a few years ago and chuck the baggy on for another episode throughout the season, just for a bit of fun.
Let's do it.
Fun story. I've turned up, right, for this podcast about, I don't know how long, an hour and a half ago. I've sat down. I've got a green screen behind me. I don't live in fucking Batman's lab or anything like that. I've got a green screen behind me. It's on the wall. I can't move it. It's pinned to the wall. Anyway, I've sat down in my Thunder kit, ready to go. And it's lime green, right? I've sat down and my whole body's see-through. So I've sat down going, fuck. And you've turned up in your Renegades kit. And I'm like, oh, no, I've really fucked this up. I didn't even consider the green screen at all. My whole body was actually see-through. So I'm going to have to find an alternative to get the Thunder kit on here. Maybe I'm just going to have to rip this green screen off the wall for an episode so I can
I rate that background, mate.
It's pretty cool.
But before we forget, mate, because I know we've got some loot players to talk about. For everyone that's dropping questions in the chat, let's get them into the Patreon, mate, because we're doing an exclusive for Patreon tomorrow night. Any questions that you've got, jump in the Patreon. We will answer everything that ladies and gentlemen have there. We'll do it then.
Yeah, that's an exclusive Patreon subscriber Q&A. So every question, I don't care if there's 100, every question will be answered in there. So jump on in, $6. You'll get your month worth. If you want to cancel it after the month, you can do that. To get your season started, you'll see our teams in there. You'll get access to everything, every article that's been written in the previous 6 weeks as well, since we've been doing content, as well as some exclusive stuff. Q&As, we're going to do buy, hold, and sell every single round as articles in there, as well as captaincy, vice captain loops and stuff like that we won't be doing on the YouTube public podcast every single week. So jump on into the Patreon if you want to support the show or you want that extra content as well. Talk to me about DNPs very quickly, mate. There's 2 very standout options if you're going to have a DNP for a loophole. Who are we looking at?
Number 1, we're looking at the sausage. Who is the sausage? It's Will Salzman. Why? Because he's got the bat bowl and he's the cheapest player in Supercoach, so you can move your loophole into your batters, into your bowlers. They're not just stuck in the one category. So we're going with the sausage as number 1 and the door. Jake Doran, number 2. Say what?
The sausage and the door.
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
No.
Okay. All right. Cool. That'll stick. That'll stick for the year.
Yeah.
Matrix used to call, and for anybody who doesn't know who Matrix is, Matrix and I do NRL, Horse, and Skiddy do AFL. Yeah. Matrix used to call everybody in the chat the stream team, and I fucking hated it so much. It was horrendous. It just made my blood boil. So he did it even more. And I don't know whether the sausage in the door is any better than that, to be honest.
Okay.
It could be up there with, I won't say the worst call ever because we've had some stinkers, but it's not good.
Okay. The sausage is going to stick. Anyway, so say you've got the Uggets to pick Sam Harper. You've got him on your bench. He performs. He pops off and scores you an 80. Then you've got Doran in your keeper spot. You can keep Sam Harper's score. Happy days. But the beauty with Doran as well is that you can move him into your batsman's positions as well.
Yeah. I think they're the perfect 2 loops, even if you wanted to carry both of them. They cover every position. So you're pretty covered there with both. Do I want more than 2 loophole DNPs? No, because I think
cash is king.
As soon as you start taking too many DNPs, they don't make cash, right? So you're sacrificing cash generation, and that's not something you want to do. You want to build that bank up of your squad. So, mate, that'll just about do us. Anything you wanted to add or anything that we've missed before we wrap this one up?
I can't wait for this to get started, mate. We've been doing content for a solid 6 weeks. There's almost 30 episodes out there that we've put together, team reviews, pods, top bats, top bowlers, top keepers, the whole kit and caboodle. Let's get stuck into the real stuff.
Yeah, I'm keen to just watch some cricket, grab a beer, sit down, the Christmas tree, the lights are on the Christmas tree and the TV, the cricket's on in the background. It's a beautiful sunny, it's a beautiful summer night. And there's nothing better, really, than having some BBL on the TV. So let's rip in Sunday night, first game. We've got one more stream on Patreon Saturday night, live Q&A. So jump in there if you want to get involved in that.
Yep.
Otherwise, guys, thank you for watching. We love all of you jumping in the chat and getting involved. Hit the subscribe and like button, follow and review if you're listening to us on audio. And we'll be coming to you every single week for a round wrap-up and preview for the next week. That podcast will be live on YouTube, as this one is right now, on the last night before the next round. So basically, while the final game of the round is on, we'll be going live around that 8:30 mark every single round. So look forward to keep coming to you. Hopefully we can get those teams sorted for you and you can climb the rankings, find some green arrows, win some cash. Sounds like a pretty good gig.
I like it. Let's do it.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.